What is good, Stackers University, and welcome to what I am calling the Guest Lecturer Series. The idea behind this series is me bringing in guests. Yes, some will be paid sponsors, but regardless, I want to start bringing in expert CEOs and other industry leaders as a way for us to learn from their experiences and gain their wisdom. By now, you've seen the little link at the top indicating that this is a paid sponsor video. Okay, but before you click away for whatever reason, I want you to give this video a few minutes because what I tried to do with today's guest, and I think he actually does a really great job, is to have him share some of his invaluable wisdom around investing that will help you going forward. For example, he shares these ideas around where there is mystery, there is margin. He talks about the value of seeking out distressed assets, and of course, the importance of time as an investor. I've already covered IBER American in a previous video, so I will link at that video at the end. I have the CEO, Campbell Beecher, with us join us today. Campbell, as an investor in gold, silver, and other resources, we often talk about buying things when they are unloved. But you have a phrase about mystery and margin. Can you talk about that as it relates to investing?
First big thing is where there's mystery, there's margin. I don't think a lot of people know about tin. And if a lot of people don't know about it, that's your mystery part where there will definitely be margin on a return basis. So for us, just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I previously ran an investment bank called Byron Capital from 2007 till 2014. And I was CEO of that bank. And our whole strategy being an investment bank was to be the intellectual box, the thought leaders. And back in the day, I coined the phrase electric metals. The one specifically that really drew a ton of interest for me was the tin piece, because with tin, they had actually replaced lead solder with tin. And if you know anything about electronics and soldering, you can't do anything without solder. So tin is the glue that meshes any electronics together, from circuit boards to solar paneling. You can't be without it. It's the number one. It's the number one element for electrification, in my opinion.
I love that idea where there is mystery or where people don't know or understand something, there's usually margin in there for us as investors. One of the quotes I love from Warren Buffett is, "A great investment opportunity occurs when a marvelous business encounters a one-time, huge but solvable problem." Tell us about the Penota mine and the opportunity associated with buying this distressed asset.
First of all, it's a distressed asset, and so um, the previous management team had a very tough time. They were always kind of a day late and a dollar short, and it's very hard to run a producing mine being underfunded. So the problems that they had really became the prizes for us. For us, we were very lucky to see an asset that had really been, you know, the wealth had been destructed, and you'd seen what we had seen there was not so much that the project was a problem, but there was a lot of accounts payable. There were a lot of creditors knocking on the door. So we kind of came in like a white knight to this group. And because of our background, there's myself and our executive chairman is a guy named Gene McBurney. Gene is a legend in mining finance. This is the only board he sits on, and he's our executive chairman. So when it comes to funding, that the capital market side is something we know extraordinarily well. And then we've surrounded ourselves with phenomenal people. I'm a big believer in hire your weakness. And so for us, it was, we needed a mining engineer. And when we actually were looking at this project, just say how this fall in our lap, I was a shareholder of this asset, and as was Gene. And, we're sitting there, do we write this asset off? Is it something that we should completely forget about? So, I reached out to a personal friend of mine who was the head of global consulting for Hatch Engineering. And I said, would you mind taking a peek at this? I was crying on his shoulder. And he's like, yeah, just, why don't I send 3 guys there? I'll send a mining engineer, a process engineer, and a environmental specialist. So, as IBER, we sent, we paid for this analysis to be done. And the mining engineer that was sent over was a guy named Michael Jones. And now Michael Jones is our COO. He liked the project so much. I'm giving you some foreshadow as to how good the analysis looked. So when Mike was viewing it, he's like, oh my God, there's so many low-hanging fruit solutions here. This mine was just basically underfunded and, really just fell into this death spiral. So, when we found that out, it's just like, okay, well, listen, let's get a great team. So we brought Mike Jones on from a mining engineer point of view, because you need that type of leadership from an operations standpoint, which is one of the problems that previous miners had. They've gone through 4 different COOs. And so, we think we've got the right guy with Mike Jones. And then a little secret sauce is Gene and I were in Hong Kong speaking to investors, and this great woman, Hannah Badenak, came came across us, and she used to run Noble's tin desk. Noble's a big trading house out of the Far East, and she actually ran the tin book as well. So we met with her. We were telling her story, and next thing you know, we send her our specs. She sends our specs to Malaysia Smelter Corp. Malaysia Smelter Corp comes back with glowing recommendations saying this is great product. And so we had the right product, which obviously Gene and I were smiling from ear to ear. And then we're like, how do we get Hannah on our team? So for shareholders coming into our story, knowing that we have the right professionals really at the helm in every part of it, whether it's from offtake to operations to capital markets, we're checking all the boxes.
I'm going to pause the interview here because I really want to underscore this idea from Stephen Burst when he said, one man's mistake is another man's opportunity. The challenge for us as investors is having the courage to act when we see these mistakes or this mismatch in the markets. For example, remember when Franco-Nevada was punished far beyond the real economic impact because of the Cobre Libre mine? I picked up shares around $105 that were at $130 less than 6 months later. That's 25% gain simply because the market was making a mistake and overreacting. I did the same thing with the coup in Niger with Global Atomic shares. My hope is that you can start to see distressed assets as an advantage you have over other investors, and that if you can exercise with control and caution the courage to take action, there are great opportunities on the other side. But let's get back to the interview. But now I want to focus a little more on the time aspect of investing. Lobel Tigre famously discovered this pre-production sweet spot in the Lassonde curve, where the time between mine construction to first production resulted in a 3 to 8 times X in the stock price. But more importantly, almost none of those companies failed or lost money. Listen to what Campbell says here about time and how long it's going to take them from acquisition to production.
I always view it just in life in general that our greatest commodity is time. Non-renewable, it's our most precious. If we get it back, we'd pay, whatever we could, right? So when I look at time, there's been over $60 million spent on this mine. And it's, it would take, if we were just starting an exploration project right now, it would take 5 to 6 years to get into production. So time is evaporated. I mean, we've got like the DeLorean with the flux capacitor here from Back to the Future. And we just have to, close on this financing. We're 2 months out to production. So from that point of view, the time piece is the best part of this whole asset. And the fact that there's been over 60 million spent on it, and we're actually getting it for 6 million in shares, plus taking over some previous debt. So in terms of buying an asset for pennies on the dollar, and the time piece, that's another big prize that we don't have. We don't need the 5 years to take it from grassroots to production. So I'm thrilled with that aspect of this business.
As a wrap up, and in full disclosure, I am a shareholder of the company, but what would you say to convince someone like me to increase my investment? Or what would you tell a prospective investor to do if they were interested in IBER American?
No, I think it's, invest in this team, Google everyone on this team. I think shareholders will be impressed to see this team we've put together. Google Spain. I mean, people love Spain. I mean, it's a phenomenal place to do business. And the tin itself, I mean, the great thing about tin is nobody knows about it yet. And that's the real secret sauce, is the fact that, like, how are you going to play it? Like, people don't even know how to play tin. There's no ETF. There's no easy way to play it. We look at ourselves as one of 2 or 3 ways to play it. There's Alphamin Resources, but it's a Congo. It's a phenomenal business. It's puking cash, but some people can't play it because it's in the Congo. So they don't want to invest in conflict areas. So, and then look up the tin macro. The tin macro is, tin's one of the top performing metals this year. It trades on the LME daily, and currently trades at about 32,000 a ton. So it's a very real, transparent commodity that people should be looking at very, very seriously here. I mean, when you look at Nvidia, you can't have processors and chips without tin, because you got to connect them to circuit boards. So anything you need that has to do with AI, electrification, you can't avoid tin.
There you have it, folks. Campbell Beecher, CEO of IBER American. Thank you again, Campbell, for spending some time with me today as a guest lecturer here at Stackers University. If y'all are interested, you can find out more information about researching the company via its ticker symbols of IBER in Canada and IBRLF in the US. You know how we always end things around here, folks. Always stack smarter and never stop learning.